Hey guys, in this video we are going to clone the SpaceX landing page. This is the original SpaceX website and this is our cloned version. You can see they are almost similar, but I tried to make things similar as much as possible, but you know that you can't make everything same pixel by pixel. But it isn't too bad actually. So let me give you a quick demo of this application. If you want to see it yourself, you can just go to thatonjon.github.io/spacex-clone-yt. Then you will see this page, and obviously the link will be on the description. Basically, the landing page has some subsection. Each of the section is holding the full height and width of the screen with a background image. And on top of the background image, there is a bottom content with some text and a big button. And if I keep scroll down, you can see the bottom content appears with a nice animation when the section comes into view. And if the section goes out of the view, the bottom content disappears with an animation. And we have this big button. If I hover over it, you can see a nice background animation happens. That's really cool. And if I keep scrolling down, we have a simple footer with some links. But the complex thing of this website is the header, or more specifically the header animation. If I scroll down, you can see the header disappears with an animation. And if I scroll up, the header appears again. And if I keep scrolling down, and then if I scroll up, you can see the header comes up with a background. And if I scroll down, it disappears again with a good animation. Inside the header, we have the SpaceX logos, a header navigation with links. If I hover over them, you can see a underline animation. And on the right hand side, we have a hamburger menu icon. If I click on it, right navigation slides in. And if I click on the cross icon again, the navigation slides out. And also the hamburger menu has its own animation. So that is really cool. In case if you're wondering how I got these images, I got them directly from SpaceX website. And don't worry, you don't have to manually download them. You can find them on my GitHub repository with source code. I'll put the link on the description. And please make sure you start the project, and you can also follow me on GitHub too. And all of this is built with vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We're going to do CSS positioning, animations, DOM manipulation with JavaScript, JavaScript intersection observer, and so on. And intersection observer is responsible for the animation happens for the bottom content when a section appears on the screen. Okay? If you are interested, please make sure you subscribe to my channel to watch more of these project-based videos. And by the way, please let me know in the comment section, do you like project-based videos or specific topic-based videos? Please let me know in the comment section. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so I have this basic setup. I have an index.html file. Here we have a link tag linked with reset.css file. We have just simple h1 text and a script tag linked with index.js file. So if I show you the reset.css file, and here we have the code to reset all the default browser styles. I'm using normalized CSS. I will put the original GitHub repository link on the description. I've customized the original normalized CSS code a bit for my need. If you are following along, you can just copy it from my repository. I've added a font import link from Google Fonts. I'm gonna use Montserrat font. And you can see I've selected everything with an asterisk. I've set padding to 0, margin to 0, and box sizing border box. And the HTML line height will be 1.15. The default was 1. Then we have body, font family of Montserrat, max width of 100 view width, and overflow X to hidden so that we don't get any horizontal scrolling. Then I have put background color to black and color white. And then we have some other styles, okay? And our HTML file looks like this. First of all, let's work on the footer first. Now, some people prefer to write all of the HTML at first. then they write the CSS files. But I don't like that approach. I love to complete things section by section. For example, now I'm not gonna start it from top, I'm gonna start it from bottom. I'm gonna start writing the code for the footer first. It isn't so fancy here, we have just a text and a list of links. Okay, I will build this page with mobile first approach. That means first I'm gonna style the page for mobile devices, then tabs, then desktops. Okay, so let's build the footer first. Our browser tab will be on the right side so that we can see what we are doing instantly. Let's open up the depth tool because we will need that. And the width of the tab is 574 pixel. Okay, so our first breakpoint will be 600 pixel. So that is a good width to work on. So first of all, I will delete the h1 and let's add a footer with footer class. So I'm gonna use emmet to generate all of my tags. So footer dot footer, and inside the footer there will be a text with the class of footer text, and the text will be SpaceX 2021. And now we will have a unordered list with footer list class. And here we will have 6 li tags. So li of 6, and inside every single li there will be a anchor tag or a tag if you say, and those a tags will have a class of footer list link, and the links will have an attribute of href with a £, which will take you to nowhere. Now let's just fill up the anchor tags with text. Okay, so our anchor tags are filled with text: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Flickr, LinkedIn, and privacy and policy. Okay, so we have this now. You can see we don't have any kind of bullets on each list because we have reset the styles already. So let's style the footer. So inside the CSS directory, I will create a file called footer.css. And obviously I have to add that. So I will copy this line, and instead of reset it will be footer.css. Let's go to footer.css. Let's select the footer class dot footer. Let's add a background color so that we can see the footer clearly. Background of teal, doesn't really matter here. Let's add position relative, margin 0 for top and bottom, and an auto for left and right. Text align center, then text transform will be uppercase, font size will be 0.7 rem, font weight will be 400, then padding will be 1.5 rem for top and bottom, and 0 for left and right. Oops, padding. Now let's select the text inside the footer, this one, the SpaceX 2021. So let's select the class dot footer underscore text. Color will be a light gray color. I will paste the hex code. Now let's select the footer list. So dot footer underscore list. Let's make it display flex, and let's make flex wrap to wrap, then justify content. To align things horizontally, I want to give space evenly so that every children has even space on their left and right. Then align items to center, padding 0 on top and bottom, and 1 rem to left and right. And then add some padding to the top. Padding top will be 1 rem. Now select the li tags dot footer list, then li. We need to give a margin to every single list. Why is that? Because when the screen size will be too small, the footer list will be wrapped. So if I just decrease the screen size a bit, you can see the list has been wrapped. The privacy policy list has been moved to the second line. So that's why we need to have some margin on its right and bottom. So margin 0 pixel for top, 10 pixel for right, then 10 pixel for bottom, and 0 pixel for left. And they are looking much better than before. Now let's select the actual link inside the LIs. So dot footer list underscore link. Let's add a font weight of 600. And the link text are bold now. Let me just remove the background. And let's add a hover effect. So dot footer list link. Then use the pseudo selector hover. And I will change the font color to a lighter gray. I will just paste the hex code. Okay, so if I hover over it, you can see the effect, but it is kind of harsh. So let me just add a transition to it. Just go to the footer list link class, not the pseudo selector hover. Okay, so here add a transition property. I want to have transition on color, and the duration will be 1 second, and the transition type will be cubic Bezier. I'm just gonna paste the value. Now cubic Bezier is a transition type, and if I hover over it, you can see there's a transition effect. So if I inspect this element to show you the cubic Bezier thing, so here is our transition, color 1 second, then cubic Bezier. If you click on this little box, it is a cubic Bezier editor. You can change these Beziers however you want, and it show you the value real time. Now I have copied this from the original SpaceX website. You can choose whatever value you want. So we are done with the footer. Now let's work on the missions. And by mission, I mean each of these boxes with our images. You can see. So basically, we will have a section that will take the full height and the width of the document body. And inside the container, there will be an element which will also take full height width of its container. And also it will hold a background image, the image that you are seeing. Okay, so I will create some new lines. So let's first create a section with a class called mission container, and inside the mission container there will be a div with class of background, and it is fine for now. Later we will add the content containers. Now we don't see anything on the page because we need to style them. So inside the CSS directory, I will create a file mission.css, and obviously I have to add that file. So it will be mission.css. So let's first select the mission container class. Let's make it position relative and min height of 100 view height. 100 view height means take 100% of the viewport. And just to see, we will add a background color of teal. Okay, so we have the background. It is taking 100 view height. Now let's select the background class inside the mission container. So dot mission container, then background, dot background. It will select the background class inside the mission container. Actually, I forgot to do a step. There will be 5 mission container, and to distinguish them, we have to add a different class to each of the section. So I forgot to do that. So just go to the background class and let's add a new class to it. It will be called 1 because it is the first mission, and the second background element will have class 2, then 3, then 4, and so on. We will add them later. So let's go to the CSS file And now I will just copy this line and paste it again. Now inside the mission container, we have background class, and that element also has a one class. So without any space, just add the one class. So dot one. Now that means that we are selecting an element that has a background class and also has a one class. Now let's add the background image. Background image. And inside the URL function, pass the path. And our path is /media/1.webp. Now let's go to the background class. Actually, I made a mistake. This should not be min height. It should be only height. And that still works. And also I will delete the background color. Okay, so we don't see the image actually because the background element doesn't have any height. So let's add the height of 100%. And here we can see the image, but not totally. Let's add background repeat to no repeat. Then background size will be cover. And here we can see more of the image. If I make it full screen, this is our actual image, but it is not looking good. It is not looking good because it is only showing the left part of the image. We want to see the center of the image. So we need to add a background position property and it will be center. Okay, so we are now only seeing center of the image. If I make the screen size bigger, you can still see the center of the image. Okay, so it is looking good. But if I add any text with a white color, it will not look good because the image is also bright in some places. So we need to add an overlay to the image so that our text looks good. Now in the original SpaceX website, they didn't add an overlay to the image. I don't know why, but they should have added that. But I will add the overlay. Now there are different ways to add overlay to the image. I'm going to use the easiest way to do that, which is using the after pseudo selector. So I will copy this selector and we'll add a after pseudo selector. After. Let's add a content of empty string. Make it position absolute. And obviously I have to make the background element position relative. Now why relative and absolute positioning here? Because the after pseudo selector also work as an element. So the after element will be aligned with the relative element, which is the background element. Now if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch this video. I have talked about CSS positions in depth, and I've also explained how to align items with CSS positions. That's very easy. If you have any confusion, just check out this video. I'll put the link on the description. Then after position absolute, we need to add a top of 0 value, then left of 0, width will be 100%, and height will also be 100%, and background color will be RGBA 000, which is the red, green, blue value, and the fourth value, which is for alpha, for transparency, I'm gonna give 0.2, and obviously the color will be black. Okay, so you can see a black overlay. If I inspect this element and just toggle the background color, see, there is an overlay. Okay, so our mission background image is done. Now I will just copy this line and I will paste that 4 times. So the second mission will have class 2, third mission will have 3, then 4, and finally 5. Let's go to the CSS file and I will just copy these lines 4 times. Let's change it to class 2, file will be 2.webp, then 3, then 4, and finally 5. So let's save it. And you can see we have more mission sections. There's a blank section. Why is that? There should be an image. Let's go to the index.html. Oops, I have only added the number 5. It will be text 5. Now if I save the file, and here we can see the last image, and they are looking actually good. But here is a problem, that some image might not look good on small screen size because of background positioning. We have background position to center. For example, this image, it is at the center, but it still doesn't look good. We have to move this image more to the left. So just go to the background.5 selector and add a background position. This will override the previous one. And the background position actually can take two values, one for the horizontal axis, another one is for the vertical axis. So for horizontal axis, I can give 65% value. Now you don't have to pass left, right, bottom, anything like that. Always you can use any kind of CSS unit value. So it is 65%, and for vertically it will be center. So if I scroll down, and you can see the last image is looking much better than before. We are seeing the rocket or whatever it is at the center. And now that we are done with section images, let's work on the bottom content, and we will add this button with this cool effect. So let's go to the index.html file. So let's go to the mission container 1. Add a element with class bottom content. Inside the container, there will be an h4 with a class of bottom content subheader. Then it will have a h1 with class of bottom content header. And then there will be a button, but actually I'm gonna use an anchor tag, and then I will style it as a button. So a.content __ button. href will be a hash sign, but inside the anchor tag there will be a span with class of text, and after that there will be an element with class of hover. So hover. Now this hover element will be used to have the hover effect like this. Now let's add text inside those empty elements. So for subheader, it will be recent launch, and for header, this text double asteroid redirection test dot mission, and for the button text, it will be rewatch. Okay, so we don't see any text because the text is hidden by the next image. So we need to style them to see. Let's go to mission.css. Let's select mission container. And inside the mission container, we have bottom content class. We need to make that position absolute. We need to move the element from bottom to top by 10%. So use the bottom property. Value will be 10%. And from left, it will be 1.5 rem. Width will be 90%. Okay, so now we can see the text. We need to add a max width of 500 pixel and overflow to be hidden. Now let's style the subheader. So again, mission container dot bottom content, then bottom content header, font size will be 2 rem, text align will be left, margin would be top 0, then right 0, bottom 1 rem, and left will be auto. And font weight will be 600. Now let's style the subheader. So I will copy this line. So instead of header, there will be subheader. So for subheader, font size will be 1 rem. Let's do the fun part, which is styling the button. So again, I will copy this line. So instead of bottom content subheader, it will be content button. So let's add border of 2 pixels solid white, and let's make display inline block, position relative, z index of 2. Let's add some margin to the top of 1 rem. Now let's style the text. So after content button, there will be a text class. Now font weight will be bold, font size will be 0.8 rem, display inline block, text transform uppercase, padding 1.2 rem for top and bottom, 2.5 rem for left and right. Okay, so our button looking good. Now we need to style the hover element inside this button. I will copy this line. So instead of text, it will be hover, because it had a hover class. Let me show you where it is. So here it has a hover class. It's not hov, it's hover. Now let's make position absolute, because we want to align it with the container, and we have also made the container where it is. We have also made the container position relative. Okay, so top will be 0 and left will be 0. Background will be white. Height will be 100%. Width will be 100%. Okay, so you can see the hover has taken the full height width of its container, and it is also white. And we cannot see the text because the text is also white. Let's just make color of the text to black. Okay, so we cannot see it still because the hover has higher z index than the text, so we need to push it back so that we can see the text. So z index will be -1. Alright, so now we can see the text. So we need to move down the hover element. So we need to use transform. We are going to use scale 3D. Now scale 3D can take 3 parameters. First parameter will be for x-axis, second one will be for y-axis, and third one will be for z-axis, the third dimension. So for x I want 1, and for y I want 0 to move it down, and for z-axis we want 1. Okay, so we cannot see the hover element. Let's delete the color black line, and let's add a transform origin property, and the value will be top and center. So when we will hover over the button, the hover element should move up. So let's just copy this line, and after content button I'm gonna add the hover pseudo selector. So when we will hover them, then transform would be changed. So transform scale 3D again, and this time all of the values will be 1. So 1, 1 and 1, and transform origin will be bottom center. Oops, I missed the semicolon. And when we will hover over the button, the text color should be black for the contrast. So I will copy this line. So instead of hover class, it will be text class, and color will be black. Okay, you can see it's kind of works. It's very harsh, so we need to add a transition to it. Let's add a transition property. We want to animate color property for 0.5 second. And again, animation type will be cubic Bezier. I will just paste the code. And let's go to the hover class. Let's add a transition to the element. So transition. We want to animate transform to 0.6 second. And again, we will have cubic Bezier. I will paste the value. Alright, so let's hover over the button. You can see the hover effect, right? It's really cool. So now that we have styled our button, now let's animate the whole bottom content. If I refresh this page, you can see the bottom content comes from top to bottom. First it stays invisible, then it becomes visible. We are going to do just that. So first of all, we need to make the bottom content opacity to 0. So let's go to where it is, bottom content. Let's make it opacity of 0. Actually, let's just comment it out. We need to move the element to the top, so we are going to use transform property, then translate y actually, negative 100%. Okay, so it has been moved up. Let's make opacity 0. And now we cannot see the bottom content. Now we only want the content to be seen if our class has been attached to our mission section. Class manually now, but later we will add that through JavaScript. So let's go to index.html and go to mission container and add a class. I'm gonna use class on __ screen. Let's go to mission.css and let me just copy this selector, mission container and bottom content. Now we want to select an element which has a mission container class and also has a on-screen class. So after mission container, without any space, okay, without any space, then dot on screen. So we will make opacity to 1 and transform, then translate y will be 0. Okay, so you can see that instantly it's on the view, no animation, because we need to add a transition property to the mission container. Actually, not mission container, to the bottom content class. So let's add transition property. We want to animate opacity in 1 second, and transform property also in 1 second. Actually, we don't see the effect because it is instantaneous. When we will add the on-screen class to JavaScript, there will be a delay. So if I just toggle the transform property, you can see the animation happens. So when we will add to JavaScript, you will see the effect clearly. Now we can add the observe effect to the element through JavaScript. Now what I meant is, so if I scroll down, you can see the bottom content moves down with a nice animation because this mission section has been come to the view. Okay, if I scroll down again, it disappears. See? So that's what we are going to do with JavaScript intersection observer. That's pretty cool, okay? You don't need to use any kind of library or anything, pure JavaScript. But before that, let's just copy the bottom content to every single mission. Alright, so I have added bottom content to every single mission container. You can see. So let's see what we have. Now everything working fine. We don't see the bottom content because none of the mission container has the on-screen class without the first one. So let's open up the index.js file. Index.js. Okay, so first of all, we need to get all of the mission containers. So let's get missions. Const missions will be document dot query selector all, because we need to select all of the containers, not a single one. So dot mission underscore container. And now we need to create a new instance of intersection observer. So const mission observer will be new intersection observer, and here we need to pass two things. First one is a callback function, a second one is an object. So I'll pass a arrow function. Now the callback function can take a parameter which is the entries, and entries will be an array of objects, and I'll show you what are they in a minute. So entries, and for now let's just console log entries, and for the second parameter I will just pass an empty object. Now mission observer is a new instance of new intersection observer, but we need to observe that. To do that we need to call the observe method. So mission observer dot observe. Now here we need to pass an element, not an array of element, a single element, but we will have multiple elements. So we cannot just pass missions here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to loop over missions and call the observe method on every single loop. So missions dot for each, then our function, and I will cut this line and paste it here, and I will just pass the mission. So now let's just save the file. We have an array of objects. They are intersection observer entries. Now there are 5 elements. Why 5 elements? Because there are 5 elements that we have passed to observe. Each of these elements is a single mission container. So if I expand the first item, you can see bunch of items. The thing that we need is intersecting property. Is the is intersecting property true? Yes, it is true. But why it is true? Because the first mission container is on the view. But if I just show you the fourth item, here you can see is intersecting is false. Why? Because it is not on the view. And also we have a target property, which is the current element that is on the view. If is intersecting is true, then we want to attach a class to our target element. So let's just delete the console log, and I will loop over the entries because it is an array. So entry for the parameter, and I'm gonna destructure the true property from entry. Now, if you don't know about JavaScript destructuring, I have a video on it. You can check that out. I will put the link on the description. So from entry, I want to destructure is intersecting, and then the target. So if is intersecting is true, then we want to attach a class to our target element. So target dot class list dot add. Let me create a variable first, const on screen. It will store the class name on screen, and I will add the class on screen, and then we will return true. Else we want to remove the class, target dot class list dot remove on screen. Okay, so an animation happens, but that's weird. That shouldn't have happened. And also I don't see other bottom contents on other containers. That's weird. Let's see. Let me move it to the right side. Okay, so the first container has the on-screen class. The second container also has the class. And let me scroll more. You can see the on-screen class has been attached again. Our JavaScript is working fine. I think we have problem with CSS. Let's go to CSS file. Where did I messed up? Okay, so I have messed up here. I have added position relative to the background. The position relative should be on the container itself, not the background element. So I will cut this line and paste it here. Alright, so we don't see any animation. That's because the on-screen class has been already attached to on the first element, so I will remove that. And now we can see the animation. But what? Where is that animation? Okay, so there is, here is, but no animation here. Okay, so here is a problem. That is, even if the first element is taking the whole screen, but still I don't know why the second element also gets intersected. So that's the reason the animation happens even before we notice. But there is a way to fix this, and that's pretty easy. We need to use threshold. Now what is a threshold? Threshold is just a property that we can pass in this object, and with threshold you can specify how much of the element has to be on the view to trigger this function, to run this function. For example, if you want to attach the class only if 50% of the element has been shown, you can do that with threshold. So inside this object, threshold. Now threshold will take a number as value from 0 to 1. 0 means 0%, 1 means 100%. If you want 75%, then you have to put 0.75. I'm just gonna put 0.5. Now let's save the file. Okay, so here is our animation, and if I scroll down, animation again. Notice we cannot see the bottom content of the previous element. If I scroll up again, here is our content. If I scroll down, our content disappears. So it is really working. It's working fine actually. And we are done with the bottom content. Obviously, we have to work on when we will make our website responsive, but for now, it's done. Now we can work on our header. Alright, so let's first understand the header before we build it. Our header is quite complex. We have this logo, then we have this navigation on top, but for now you don't have to care about it. It will only be seen after a certain breakpoint. We have a hamburger icon. If I click on it, a navigation comes from the right side, and if I click on it again, it disappears. And if I scroll down, you can see the header has been disappeared. If I scroll up, the header comes again. And if I keep scrolling, and now if I scroll up, you can see a background appears with a nice animation, and also we can see the header. And if I keep scrolling up, when we reach the top, the background disappears. And if I click on the navigation, and if I scroll down or up, the right navigation also disappears. So it's quite complex. So you're going to learn a lot from it. So without further ado, let's get started. So for the small screen size, we are only going to do the logo and the hamburger menu. So let's write the HTML for that. After the body tag, and above all, add the header tag with header class. So header dot header. It will have a background element. So background, it will be empty. And then we will have a container that will actually contain the header. Let's give it a class header inner. So inside the header inner, we will have a div with header logo class, header. And inside that, we will have an anchor tag because we also want the logo to be a link. And inside the anchor tag, we will have an image tag. Source will be .media/logos/SpaceX logo PNG. And let's give it a alt SpaceX. Okay, so this is for our logo. Now inside the header inner, we're going to add another container. Later we will delete that. It will be reserved for our hamburger menu. I'm gonna give it a class .temp ham. Okay, so that's it for our markup. And this is our header for now. Let's style it. So inside the CSS directory, I will create another file, header.css. And obviously I have to link it. So I will copy this line. So instead of reset, it will be header. So let's first select the header class. So .header. Let's give it a height of 5 rem. We want the header to be floated, and also it always stays at the top. So obviously we have to use the position fixed. So position fixed, and top will be 0, left will also be 0, width will be 100%. And let's give it a background so that we can see things clearly. Doesn't really matter what color you use. I'm gonna use teal. Okay, so we don't see the header because it has lower z index than the mission. So we need to give a higher z index. So z index, I will give 10. And now we can see the header. Alright, so now let's style the background. So .header, and inside header we have the background. .background. Let's give a background color of black. And now let's make position absolute. Then just give it a top 0. Then left 0. width 100%, height 100%. Okay, so here is our background, but we don't see the image anymore. We need to give a z index of -1, and now we can see the image. Let's just delete the background property from header. Now let's work on the header inner element. So dot header, then space dot header underscore underscore inner. So height of 100% and width of 100%. Then let's make display flex. Now let's style the logo, but actually before that, let's just give a width to the to this temp ham function, so that we can assume there is a hamburger menu. Dot temp underscore underscore ham, width of 5 rem, and let's give it a background red. Okay, so we have the red background. It is not actually 5 rem. I don't know why it is so small. Maybe because of the image it cannot take more width, but that's fine for now. Let's style the image. So let's select header logo. So dot header underscore underscore logo. Let's give it a flex grow to 1, so that it always takes any kind of extra space if it has. Then make overflow hidden. Okay, so now we can see the red box much bigger than before. Maybe it was overflowing or something happened, I don't know. Let's select the anchor tag of header logo. So header logo, then a. Let's make it display block. Width will be 10 rem. Now let's select the actual image. So header logo a, and inside a we have the image tag. Let's give it a height of 100%, width of 100%. The image is looking too small. We need to give it an object fit to cover. Now to center the image, we need to go to the anchor tag selector. Here we need to use margin to center that element. We need to use margin 0 for top and bottom, and auto for left and right. Now to center it vertically, we need to use margin to the header logo class. So I will copy this line. Now this time the values will be reversed. For top and bottom we want auto, for left and right we want 0. Okay, so the image is now at the center. Okay, so our logo is done. Now we need to add the hamburger, but I'm not gonna create it from scratch. I'm gonna use a existing solution. If you go to johnwish.com/hamburgers, you will see this web page. This man named Jonathan has created bunch of hamburger menus for us with pure HTML and CSS that we can use in our project. You don't need to use any kind of CDN or anything. All you need to do is just copy this line of code and copy some CSS code and you will be good to go. Okay, so first just copy this line of code and go to index.html and paste it. And obviously we don't need the temp ham element, and also remove it from the header. Now it is only just a button. We need to style it with CSS, but Jonathan has done everything for us. All you need to do is just click on this download link. I will open this on new tab. It will take you to the actual GitHub repository. First, make sure you have given a start to this project because of that awesome work that he has done for us. Then just go to the dist directory and then go to hamburger.css. And here you can see a lot of CSS code, but you don't need everything. You only need only this part of the code, and later code will be depend on what variant do you use. So you can see you have bunch of variants of hamburgers. We have elastic, empathic, collapse, arrow alt. Choose the variant that you like. I really like the empathic version, so I'm going to use that. So after you have chosen the variant, just scroll down and attach a class to the button depends on the variant. For example, I want the empathic variant, so I will have to use this class on the button. So I will copy this, and on the button I will paste it. And then after copying the upper code, you have to find the empathic version. I mean, depending on what variant you want to use. I want to use empathic, so I'm gonna search for empathic, where it is. Let's see. So here is our empathic version of code, and all I need to do is just copy paste some code. Now I needed to adjust some code so that it fits on my project. So what you can do is you can just go to my repository and copy it. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that right now. So let's create our file. Inside CSS directory, I'll call it hamburger.css. And here I will just paste the code. And this is the code that we need. And now let's just add the CSS file to our index.html. I will copy this line. Instead of header, it will be hamburger.css. Okay, so you can see the hamburger icon. It has some hover effect. Now when we will click on it, it should turn into a cross icon. It is very simple. We need to use JavaScript for that. Basically, we just need to attach a class to this button element. So let's open up the index.js file. Index.js. Let's select the hamburger. Const hamburger will be document.querySelector. We need to select the hamburger class. So .hamburger. Then we need to add an event listener to this hamburger element. So hamburger.add event listener. We need to listen for click. Then our callback function. We need to toggle a class which is called isActive to the button element. So I will create a variable for the class name because I'm going to reuse that. Const is active. So string is active. Actually, is it dash or underscore? Let me see. Oops, it's dash. We have to add is dash active, not is underscore active. So we need to toggle that. So hamburger dot class list dot toggle. We don't need to use any kind of if statement, and we need to toggle is active class. Okay, so if I click on it, it turns into a cross icon. If I click on it again, our hamburger icon again. It's really cool, right? So our hamburger icon is done. Now we can work on our side navigation. Now the side navigation will be very simple. We're going to align it to the right. When the hamburger menu icon will be active, we also want to show the navigation. When it will not be active, we want to disappear it again. It's very simple, so let's do this quickly. Alright, so let's go under the header. So below header, we're going to create a nav tag with a class of navigation menu. And inside that, there will be a unordered list. And inside unordered list, there will be 8 list items. And inside every single list item, there will be an anchor tag. So li of 8 list items. And inside li's, there will be an anchor tag. href will be a £sign. Okay, so our list has been created. Now I'm just gonna fill up the text inside of the anchor tags. Alright, so I have filled up the anchor tag with some text. And we don't see anything because we need to style them. So I will create another file inside my CSS directory called navigation.css, and obviously I need to add that to my HTML file. So navigation.css. So let's select the navigation menu class. So navigation menu. We need to make it position fixed so that it stays fixed on the screen. So position fixed. Top will be 0. And we want the navigation to be on the right side. So give the property right. And value will be 0. Let's give it a background color of black. Let's give it a z-index of 5 so that it comes in front of the view. Okay, so here is our navigation menu. Here you can see on the right side. Now let's give it a width of 80%, but max width will be 20 rem, and height will be 100%. Now let's select the UL inside the navigation menu. So navigation menu UL. The width of the UL will be 80% width, so that we have some spacing on left and right. So 80%. Then margin 0 and auto for left and right to make it center. Then margin top 8 rem to bring it down, and text align to right. Now let's select the LI inside of UL. LI. Actually not LI, let's first select the anchor tag inside of LI. Later we will style the LI. Let's make display block. Font size of 1 rem. Let's give it a line height of 40 pixel. Font weight will be 500. Text transform will be uppercase. Then we want some border on the bottom. So border bottom will be 1 point. Solid. I'm gonna use a hex code, which is 252525. Okay, so it is looking pretty good. Now when we will hover over the links, the color should be changed. So let's give it a hover effect. I'll copy this line. Let's add hover pseudo selector. The font color should be changed to, I'm going to use a hex code 8B939B. So if I hover over it, we don't see the effect. I messed up with the class name, so there should be a space. Okay, so if I hover over it, you can see the color changes. Now that's pretty harsh. Let's add a transition to it. Transition. We want to animate color in 1 second. The animation type will be cubic Bezier, so I'm just gonna paste the value here. Okay, so now if I hover over it, you can see the color gets changed, and I think the duration is too much, so I'm just gonna make it 0.4 second. Now it is looking good. Now when we will open up the navigation, there will be a little bit of animation. So if I just show it to you, if I open up the navigation, you can see the links first stays invisible, then it becomes visible, and also it moves up. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. For that, we have to select the LI. So I will copy this line. I don't need to select A. So we need to move it down by 100%. So transform, translate, Y, 100%. Then transition, we want to animate everything, so all, and duration will be 1 second, and delay will be 0.6 second. And by default, the opacity will be 0. If the navigation is open, there should be a class called open. By default, the open class will not be in the navigation. So let's select the navigation menu with open class. So navigation menu dot open, then select the UL, then inside LI, and let's make it opacity to 1, and transform, translate Y to 0. And also the navigation will be hidden from the view by default. So let's go to navigation menu. Let's give it a transform property. Transform. We need to move it more to the right. So translate X by 100%. We also have a transition in it. We want to animate everything within 0.5 second. Animation type will be is in and out. But if the navigation menu is open, I mean if the open class exists in the navigation menu, then we want to change the transform property. So transform will be translate X, value will be 0. Alright, so we don't see the right navigation, and if I click on this, nothing happens. Now to add the functionality, let's go to index.js file, index.js. Let's select the navigation menu, const navigation, document.query selector, add the class navigation __ menu, and we need to toggle the class of open. So I'll copy this line. So instead of hamburger, there will be navigation, and the class will be open. So now if I click on it, you can see the navigation happens, and if I click on the cross icon, and it disappears. Okay, so very cool, and that was very easy, right? So our right navigation is done. Now we can make our website more responsive. So I will create a new file, responsive.css. So let's use the first breakpoint, which is for the SM. Actually, let me just write that for you in comment. So SM will be 600, MD will be 900, LG will be 1200, and XL will be 1600. Now you don't have to use these breakpoints. My goal is to just show you how to make things responsive. It's up to you what breakpoint you wanna use. So let's add the first media query for SM screen. So @media, then screen, and we're going to use min width all the time, not max width. So if min width is 600 pixel, then we want to add these styles. This screen size is about 700 pixels. That will be a good width to work with. So if the screen size is more than 600 pixels, then we want to move up this bottom content a bit, and also to the right. So let's select mission __ container, then bottom __ content. Previously, I believe the bottom was 10%. Now we want to make it 15%. And left will be now 3 rem. It's not working. Let's inspect this. The media query hasn't been applied. Oops, I forgot to add that to my index.html file. So I'll copy this line, and instead of navigation, it will be responsive. Now it should work. See, the bottom content has moved up a bit. And now let's increase the header logo size. So header, then header underscore underscore logo, and then we have to select the anchor tag and give it a width of 13 rem. Now our logo is much bigger than before. Now it is 13 rem, previously it was 10 rem. And now let's decrease the footer width. So let's select footer, then select the footer list, and width will be now 90%. That's a little bit weird. It's now 90%, but it's not at the center. Let's add the margin to this UL. So margin 0, then auto. Oh yeah, I forgot to add the margin. Let's add that to our footer. So footer CSS. So footer list, add margin. Then 0 for top and bottom, and auto for left and right. Okay, so now you can see the footer is at the center. That's it for the small screen size. Let's work on the MD screen size, which is for 900 pixels. So I will just copy this line and paste it again, but instead of 600 pixel, that will be 900 pixel. So let me just increase the screen width. Now it is more than 1000 pixels. Now I want this bottom content section to be more right and decrease the max width from 500 pixel to 400 pixel. I will just copy this line again. Mission container and bottom content class. I don't need bottom. It will be 4 rem and max width will be 400 pixel. Alright, so now it has been shifted more to the right, and max width now will be 400 pixel. Now I want to increase the font size of the header, only this text, and add some margin on top and bottom. So I will copy this line. After bottom content, we have bottom content header. Let's set the font size to 2.5 rem and margin 1 rem for top and bottom and 0 for left and right. Okay, so margin 1 rem has been added to the header. Now guys, I'm so sorry, I have just noticed a silly mistake that I have done in the header text. If I scroll down, you can see I have added margin 001 rem left, then auto. I'm so sorry for that. There is no valid value as left. Maybe I was speaking and typing, that's why I made the mistake. I'm so sorry. So let's fix that. I don't know how I didn't notice it earlier. I'm so sorry for that. So let's go to mission.css and just go to bottom content header styles and just remove the left, and everything will be fine. It is still working. Now let's also increase the size of this subheader. I will copy this line. So instead of header, it will be subheader. No need of margin, and font size will be 1.5 rem. Now we need to decrease the footer size, actually the footer width. So again, I will copy this line. Now this time footer width will be 60%. Okay, so the footer width has been decreased and we are done styling for the MD screen size. Now we need to work on the LG screen size, which starts from 1200 pixel. Now when we will hit the LG screen size, we will see this header navigation, this list, okay? But we haven't really created it, so let's create that. So let's just go to index.html and go to header inner. After the header logo, let's create a nav tag with class of header __ navigation. And let's create another list, and there will be 6 list items. Inside there will be an anchor tag with class of navlink. href will be £. Okay, so we have the list. Now I'm gonna fill up the anchor tags with text. Now you don't have to watch me do this. Okay, so I have filled up all of the links with text. Now there is another link on the right side. You can see the shop. It will be outside of the list. So, but inside the nav tag. So let's create a div with class of shop container. And here we will also have a nav link. So I'll copy this, and instead of right share, it should be shop. Okay, so let's see what we have. Let me increase the size. Alright, so now it is about 1300 pixel width, and here is the links. So let's style them. Let's open up the header.css file. So let's select the header navigation class. So header navigation. Let's make the navigation display flex. Justify content to space between. It is for horizontal aligning. Then we need to add align items to make every single item vertically center. Okay, so now we can see the header navigation is taking a small amount of space. Why? Because the header logo has a property called flex grow of 1. That's why it is taking all of the extra width that the header container has. We need to give higher priority to our header navigation. So header logo has a flex grow property of 1. So I will copy this line. We need to give value 2 instead of 1. Alright, so now it is taking more space than before. Now let's style the lists. Now let's select header navigation, then UL, and then inside LI. Let's give some margin to every single list. 0 for top and bottom, and 0.7 rem for left and right. And display will be inline block, so that every single list comes next to each other, not vertically. Alright, so you can see each of the list is now next to each other. Now let's style the links. So I'll copy this line. So we need to get the navlink class. So dot navlink. Let's make font weight to bold. Font size of 0.8 rem. Text transform uppercase. Oops, I forgot the semicolon. Alright, so our links are looking much better than before, but the shop link style hasn't been changed. I need to remove UL and LI from the selector because the shop link is outside of the unordered list. Now it is good. Now if I inspect the shop link, it is taking only small amount of width, so let's give some width to the container. So dot header navigation shop container class. Add some width with flex spaces. Now flex spaces is same as giving the width, but it is just more flexbox way. So flex spaces of 5 rem. Then text align to center. Okay, so now it has some width. Let's add the hover effect like this. Now to add the hover effect, we need to use the after pseudo selector. So I will copy this line. So let's add the pseudo selector after. Let's add the content of empty string. And we need to make it position absolute relative to the container, which is the navlink. So position relative then it will stay at the bottom. So bottom 0, left will be 0, width will be 100%, height will be 1 pixel, background will be white, transform, we need to use scale X for horizontal axis, and the value will be 0. Now we don't see anything because of the scale X 0. And our transform origin, that's really important, and transform origin will be right and center. Now we will only see that when we will hover over the link. So again, I will copy this line. We need to add another pseudo selector before after pseudo selector. So add the hover. So we are now just saying if the nav link hover state is true, then select the after pseudo selector. So this time we need to change the scale X value. So transform scale X 1, then transform origin will be left center, not left center. Let's hover over a link. Okay, so we can see the underlines, but that's kind of harsh, so we need to add transition to it. So again, transition will be transform, duration will be 0.6 second, and the animation type will be cubic Bezier. So as always, I'm just gonna paste it. Now let's hover over the link. Okay, so you can see that nice animation happens when I hover over them, and also for the shop link. That's pretty cool, right? Okay, so but by default, the header navigation will not be visible. It will only be visible after we hit the breakpoint of LG. So let's make it display none. So header navigation display won't be flex, it will be none. Let's go to responsive.css. Let's add another media query. So I will copy this line. Let's select the header navigation. I will just copy this line, and the display will be flex. Okay, so if I shrink the screen width, that's weird. Oops, I need to make it 1200 pixels. Okay, so we don't see the header navigation, and if I increase the screen width, okay, so now you can see the navigation. Okay, so our header navigation is done. Let's do the rest of the work for the LG screen size. So we need to increase the font size of the header, and also we need to increase the size of the button. So I need to copy this line, the header, bottom content header. I will paste it here. Now the font size will be 3 rem, and I don't need to change the margin, and the bottom content will be more left, so its left value will be now 6 rem. The font size has been changed obviously, but there's something weird. I think I have messed up with the max width of the bottom content. Yes, it should not be 400, it should be 600 pixels. Sorry for that, guys. Okay, so now it is looking good. Now let's increase the size of the button. So I will copy this selector. So inside the bottom content, there is the content button, and there is a class called text. Let's give it a padding of 1.5 rem and 3 rem for left and right. Alright, so our button is now big and it is looking much better. And let's also increase the height of the header. So select header and give it a height of 6.5 rem. Now we need to move this SpaceX logo more to the right so that it aligns with our bottom content. So let's select header again, then header logo. Let's just remove the flex scroll. Remember, it has a flex scroll of 1. Just remove that flex scroll of 0. And let's add margin to the left. Margin left. Now how much will be the margin? The margin will be the left value of bottom content. So the bottom content left value is where it is 6 rem. Okay, so we need to give margin left 6 rem and margin right of 2 rem so that it has some spacing on the right. Okay, so the logo has been properly aligned with the content. And also let's just increase the logo size. I will copy this line. Now select the anchor tag inside the header logo. Let's give it a width of 15 rem. Okay, so the logo is now big. And also let's just increase the menu size. It is looking too small. So let's select navigation menu class and give it a max width of 30 rem. Okay, so our navigation is now big. And also let's just decrease the footer size. So footer, actually I'll just copy it from here. And it should be 50%. Okay, so footer size has been changed. Now let's work on our last breakpoint. Then we will work on our header animation. So again, I will copy this line. And this time it will be 600 pixels. Now the browser width is more than 1600 pixels. So let's increase the width of the logo. Now let's move the bottom content more to the right. I will just copy this line and paste it here. Instead of 6 rem, it will be now 15 rem. And also we have to move the header logo. Let's copy this line. We don't need other stuff like flex scroll and margin right. We only need margin left, and it will also be 15 rem. Okay, so both of them has been moved to the right. And let's again decrease the footer width. I will copy this line, footer and footer list. And instead of 50%, it will be now 40%. So that the list stays close to each other. Okay, so now it is looking pretty good. Our web page is now almost complete. Now you can stop here. You don't need to do anything more. But I'm gonna add the header animation, which is pretty cool. I will do it anyway. To do that, we need to do more JavaScript. So let's do that. Alright guys, now that we have our web page fully responsive for every device, now we can finally work on our header animation. Now if I show you the demo, you can see there is no background when we first visit the page. And if I scroll down, the header disappears. And if I scroll up again, the header comes. Now if I keep scrolling, and now if I scroll up, you can see the background came first, then the header inner comes. And if I scroll down again, the header inner element disappears first, then the background disappears, and finally the header itself. Okay, so the animation is kinda complex. It will be very hard for me to explain, but I'll still try my best. But if you don't understand, just please read the blog. But first we need a way to detect if the user is scrolling down or up. The way we will do this is with an event handler in the window itself. So we have to do that with JavaScript. That's pretty easy to do. So just go to the JavaScript file. just type window dot onScroll equals to our function. Now first we need to get the current position. Let's go to the browser, open up the DevTools, then go to console and just type window dot page y offset, not x offset, and you can see our scroll position is 3392. If I go to the top and now get the page y offset, now it is 0. And if I scroll down a bit, now it is 371. You can see we are getting the scroll position with this page y offset. So before the onScroll event, I will create a variable with let previous scroll position, short for pause, and this will store our previous scroll position. So this will be window dot page y offset. When the onScroll function will run, we need to get the current scroll position. So const current scroll pause again will be window dot page y offset. Now we need to compare these two variables. If current scroll position is bigger than the previous scroll position, that obviously means we are scrolling down. Else that will mean the user is scrolling up. It makes sense, right? So let's check. If current scroll position is bigger than previous scroll position, then just console log scrolling down. Else I'll copy this line. Instead of down, it will be up. Oops, this should be scroll pause. Now at the end of the function, we have to reassign this variable with our current scroll position. So previous scroll pause will be current scroll pause or position, whatever you say. Alright, so let's test it out. Okay, so let's scroll. You can see scrolling down has been printed on the console. And now let's scroll up. See, scrolling up has been printed on the console. The onScroll function is working. Now by default, our header will not be visible. It will be invisible, but if it has a show class, then it will be visible. And also by default, the show class will be there. So let's go to header.css file, and on the header class, add the transform property, transform translate x, sorry, not x, y. We need to give the value negative 100% so that it moves up and goes out of the view. So negative 100%. Alright, so now we cannot see the header, but if it has a show class, then translate y value will be 0. So header, if it has a show class, then translate y, I will copy this line, and the value will be 0. And let's add the show class to the header. Now we will not remove this class, it will stay there. Okay, so now we can see the header. Now the header inner element will not be seen at first. It will be shown only if the show class exists on the header. So let's go to header.css and go to header.inner. Make the opacity 0. But if header.showClass exists, then we will make the opacity 1. So I will copy this line. So if header.show exists, then header inner, so header inner will be opacity of 1. Okay, so we can see that because the show exists on our header. The background element will also stay out of the view unless the header element has a with background class. So we need to move the background out of the view by default. So just go to header, then background. We also need to apply transform translate negative 100%. So I will copy this and I will paste it here. Okay, so we don't see any background. Now we need to go to JavaScript to add or remove the classes when we will scroll down or up. So let's go to index.js. First we will handle the scroll down functionality. We just need to remove the show class from the header. So let's grab the header, const header document dot query selector header, and we need a variable to store the class name. The class name will be show. Const show will be show. Now when we will scroll down, we will remove the show class. So header dot class list dot remove, and just pass the show variable. But when we will scroll up, we will add the class. So instead of remove, it will be add. Okay, so let's scroll. You can see the header has been removed, and if I scroll up again, we can see the header now. Okay, so the functionality is working. Now let's scroll down, but when we will scroll up, we should also see the background. So we need to attach a with background class to the header. So again, I will store that in a variable, the class name, const with background will be with underscore background. Now here's another thing that I forgot to mention, which is if I show you the demo, if I scroll down, now if I scroll up, you can see the background. But if I keep scrolling up, because we are on top of the web page, now if I scroll down a bit and scroll up, now we still don't see the background. If we are on top half of the viewport, now what is our view height? It is 100 view height. So if we are on the top 50 view height, then the background should not be seen. It will make sense more when we will do that. Create a new variable inside the onScroll function. Const half screen height. Now to get the actual height of the viewport, just type window dot inner height. So our available height is 981. So we want to get the half of that. So I will copy this line, and we need to divide it by 2. And obviously we have to float that value. So we need to give a check if current scroll position is more than half screen height, then we need to add the with background class. So header dot class list dot add with background, else we need to remove that. So let's go to header.css. I will copy this line. So if header has a class of with background, then transform translate y will be 0. Now let's scroll more. Let's scroll up. Okay, so we can see the background. Now let's scroll down and up. Okay, so it is really working. And another thing that is, if I open up the right side navigation and scroll down, it disappears. And if I scroll up, it also disappears. So if the right navigation is visible and if we scroll, it will disappear. It is quite simple to do. Let's go to index.js and just scroll up. Just copy these 2 lines, paste it here. We want to remove the isActive class from Hamburger. And also we want to remove the open class from Hamburger. So remove. So let's open up the right navigation and let's scroll down. Okay, so it disappears. Now let's scroll up. Again, it disappears. So it's really working. Now we need to animate all of the things that have done to our header, the appearing, disappearing. Okay, we need to do that with transition, but we have to be careful for that because the scroll up animation and the scroll down animation has difference. Let's scroll more. Now if I scroll up, you can see the background comes first, then the header inner elements. If I scroll down, the header inner element disappears, then the background disappears. So we need to make the transition duration and delay smartly. Now when we will scroll down, the header disappears, right? The way we are going to add the animation is by attaching an ID to the header element, which the ID name will be hiding. So if we are scrolling down, then we want to attach an ID. So header dot set attribute, and the attribute name is ID and the value is hiding. Actually, let's store it in a variable, const hiding will be hiding. But after a few moments, we will delete the ID. So we need to use set timeout. Set timeout. We need a callback function. Now for the timeout, I will give 1 second. We need to give the value 1000. 1000 is equals to 1 second. But later we will change that. So I will copy this line. And instead of set attribute, it will be remove attribute. Now just notice the header element. Let's scroll down. You can see the ID has been attached and immediately after 1 second it has been removed. Okay, so it's really working. Okay, so now it is time to add the transition to our header. First we will add transition for scroll up. Okay, now remember when we will scroll up, the header will be seen. First the background will show up, then the inner element. So just go to header.css. Let's go to the header, add a transition. We want to animate transform with duration of 0 second and delay of 0 second. Then just go to the background, add transition of transform and duration will be 0.3 second. And the animation type will be cubic Bezier. So again, I will paste that value and delay will be 0 second. Actually, let's make the transition a little bit longer, 5 second. Alright, so how much time the animation will take? 5 second of duration and 0 second of animation, 5 second, right? Now after the background, we want to show the inner element. So the inner element animation delay would be more than 0.5 second. So let's go to header inner, add a transition property, opacity, we want to animate, duration will be 0.2 second. And remember that background animation will happen in 0.5 second. So our delay should be 0.6 second. Because we want to show the element after the background. Okay, so I guess that's it. Let's save it. Let's scroll down. And now let's scroll up. Oops, that didn't really work. Let's refresh this page. Still not working. That's why really CSS sucks. Or maybe my coding skills sucks. Either one of those is true.
Many minutes later.
Okay, so after spending many minutes in debugging, I finally found the problems. There are 3 problems. Here in the header inner, I have added transition delay of 0.6, but it has to be 0.6 second. So I have to put an S to it. What a stupid CSS developer. Here in the header background, we have added a transition delay of 1 second. It should be 0.1 second. And then in this selector, we only want to show the background if with background inside the header element, and also if the show class is inside the header element. But I haven't selected the show class. So dot show. And now everything should work. Okay, so now let's scroll up. Alright, so you can see the animation happens. Let's scroll down. No animation. Again, scroll up. Okay, so the cool animation happens again. The scroll up animation is done. Now let's add the scroll down animation. So let's go to the top and below the header class. Now we need to select the header inner element, but when the header has a hiding class. So header with a hiding class, select the header inner and add a transition delay of 0 second. Now I will copy this line. Now instead of header inner, we need to select the background. This time the transition delay would be 0.3 second. Now why 0.3 second? Because the inner element transition duration was 2 second, right? Where it is? Yes, 0.2 second. So the background delay should be 0.3 second. And now let's finally select a header with hiding class with transition delay. I will copy this line. Now the background duration was about 5 seconds. So 5 seconds plus 3 seconds of delay will be 8 seconds. So I will give 0.9 second. And also let's go to index.js. Instead of in the set timeout, instead of 1 second, we will need 0.9 second. So instead of 1000, just add 9000. So after 0.9 second, the hiding class will be removed. And also delete the console logs. So let's see. So let's scroll down. Our header disappears. Let's scroll up. Again, our header appears with an animation. Let's scroll down. And now let's scroll up. Okay, so it's working. And now let's scroll down. The scroll down animation is also working. See, that is looking very beautiful. And if I keep scrolling up, you can see the background also disappears. So here is our final product. It is not exactly same as the original website, but it is fine for us. Okay, it's looking beautiful with an animations. Alright guys, so our clothing is done. I hope you have learned something new from this video. I don't know if I have explained everything correctly or not. Please let me know if I have made any mistake. If the video has been helpful for you, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. If you have any question or any feedback, please let me know in the comment section. If you have any suggestion or you want me to create a video about a specific topic, please drop them in the comment section. You can follow me on any social media as thatonjon, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.